What's going on, guys? Um, I really want to talk about the end of the Badgers versus Wolverines game yesterday. I have seen a lot of reactions to it, and a lot of them I really don't agree with, so I just want to get my opinion out there. I've watched what happened several times already, and if you don't know what happened, by the way, so at the end of the Badgers versus Wolverines game, there was a physical altercation between Juwan Howard and the Badgers assistant coach, Joe Krabenhoff, and it started with a verbal altercation between Greg Gard and Juwan Howard following the conclusion of the game. The Badgers won the game by, I think, double digits. I can't remember what the final score was, but I've watched the end of the game, where they're shaking hands several times, and to me, it seems very clear that Juwan Howard is the one that instigated the whole thing. So, for context here, the Badgers and the Wolverines were playing. There's about 15 seconds left in the game, and Greg Gard called a timeout in response to the Wolverines playing press defense with about 15 seconds left. They've got two of their starters in. The Badgers have the entire end of their bench in, guys who would never usually play in a game, guys who, are walk-ons and so forth. Obviously not the best players the Badgers have, but, they're getting playing time because it's a blowout at this point. There's no chance of the Wolverines making a comeback. But the Wolverines are still playing press defense, right? The Badgers are having a tough time getting the ball over the half-court line. And they don't want to commit a turnover in this situation, so what does Greg Gard do? Greg Gard calls a timeout. And this pisses off Juwan Howard a lot, apparently. He gets extremely upset about this. And after the game, the game ends. The Badgers win by double digits. They're going for their handshakes. They're in the handshake line. Juwan Howard initially doesn't join the handshake line, but eventually he does. And when he gets to Greg Gard, instead of going to shake his hand, he pulls his mask off and he says, "I'll remember that shit." And you can clearly hear him say it. There's another video that isn't the initial CBS broadcast, someone who was very close to the situation. You can hear what they're saying in this moment. He says, "I'll remember that shit." And Greg Gard goes to stop him. Greg Gard, in what I believe he's trying to do, is in what he said after the game, in his post-game press conference, he said he was trying to explain why he called the timeout. But Juwan Howard is extremely pissed about this. He's in this post-game presser, he says there's no reason for Greg Gard to call a timeout there to extend the game because the game has already been won by the Badgers. My problem with that is that Juwan Howard is the one who has his team playing press defense. Juwan Howard is the one who still has two of his starters in at this point. So, first of all, I don't have a problem with anybody playing until the final buzzer. I don't have a problem with Juwan Howard playing press defense. You want to do that, that's fine. You're playing to the buzzer. I understand that. You want to be competitive. You want to play. You want to give it your all. You don't want to give up even if the game is out of reach. My problem with this is that if Greg Gard calls a timeout, then you, playing until the final buzzer, have no right to be upset over the other team calling a timeout, because what does that say about the Badgers? It says the Badgers are also playing until the final buzzer. Now, the Badgers could have just simply committed a turnover. They could have, given the ball back to Michigan in this situation, and then Michigan, maybe they score, but it doesn't really matter at this point. But still, I mean, if you're going to play to the final buzzer in minutes or seconds in this case that mean nothing, essentially, to the final outcome of the game, then you can't get mad at the other team for calling a timeout when the game is out of hand either, can you? It's very hypocritical to me, and what happens here at the end of the game, so Juwan Howard, like I said, he says, "I'll remember that shit." Greg Gard goes to stop him. He puts his hand on his arm to stop him, to try and explain himself, which is what he said in his post-game press conference, explain why he called the timeout. But before Gard can even say a word to Juwan Howard, you can hear Juwan Howard say, "Don't touch me," and put his finger in his face. He says, "Don't touch me." And, Gard is trying to stop him because Howard is not going to shake his hand. Howard does not want to hear what he has to say. All Howard says is, "I'll remember that shit," and keeps walking. But Gard wants to explain himself. So Gard stops him, and Juwan Howard at this point kind of loses his temper. He says, don't touch me." And then Howard actually puts his hand on Gard's jacket and grabs it. So, I feel like that's a lot more of an aggressive move than Guard simply trying to stop Howard and explain himself to him. So then Howard and Guard are kind of exchanging words. At this point, the dialogue is kind of fuzzy. I can't really understand what exactly they're saying. But at one point, Guard get pushed back to the scrum a bit, and Joe Krabenhoff is closer to Howard than Greg Gard is. And I don't know what Joe Krabenhoff says at this point. Joe Krabenhoff, by the way, is a Wisconsin Badgers assistant coach, former player for the Badgers as well. I don't know what Krabenhoff says. Howard never clarified what Krabenhoff might have said to him in his post-game press conference, so I assume it wasn't something that was, over the line or whatever. But whatever Krabenhoff says, it causes Howard to completely lose his cool and take a swing at him. And he hits him across the face. I wouldn't exactly say it's a punch, but it's a slap. It's like a slap, a mix between a punch and a slap. Regardless of what it is, it's physical violence. It's it's unwarranted, and that literally everything just falls apart at this point. Everything falls apart. Players and coaches convene. There's a lot of punches thrown. There's a lot of pushing and shoving. I wouldn't say it's a full-out brawl, but it's definitely, a physical confrontation between both teams at this point. Things eventually cool down. Both teams are able to go back to their locker room, whatever. But clearly, to me, I think Juwan Howard is the one who instigated all of this. And for the record, I don't think Juwan Howard should be fired for this, because I do understand that while he is in the wrong, emotions can be a part of sports. And I've seen the argument that, from other people that, well, if I went into my job and I punched somebody, then I'm fired. Well, obviously you'd be fired, but sports are different. Sports carry that extra level of competitiveness, of heated moments of emotions. So sometimes things like this are going to happen. But I don't think that Juwan Howard should be without punishment. I think he should be suspended for the rest of the season. Definitely not fired, though, but definitely suspended for the rest of the season. And this isn't the first time that Howard has lost his cool during or after a game either. Last year in the Big Ten tournament against Maryland, Juwan Howard got in a shouting match with Maryland coach Mark Turgeon and had to be restrained. He was eventually ejected from the game, but I don't believe he was suspended any games at that point. But now I think, this is the second time this has happened, and this time it involved physical violence, so I think Juwan Howard should get a suspension for the rest of the season. I don't think he should be fired, but if it does happen again, and I think the Big Ten should make this very clear, this is the second time this has happened, and it's not acceptable. You should be suspended for the rest of the season, and if it happens again, then you're gone. You're done. You're done as the head coach of Michigan, and I think Michigan should make that clear as well. This isn't going to be tolerated, and if you do it again, then you're out as our head coach, because Michigan, is a program that I respect and has, a very prestigious and proud history. So, this is a bad look for their program, and I think that, it's something that they really have to take a serious look at and say, hey, this isn't acceptable, and we need to make an example out of this situation by suspending him for the rest of the season. And, I don't know. I think maybe Juwan Howard is a cool guy off the court. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. I don't know for sure. Obviously, I don't know Juwan Howard, but people who do know him have said that he is generally a good guy. But clearly, his emotions got the best of him in this situation, and it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable after a game to do that, to take a swing at the opposing coach. Even, in the situation, if he wasn't playing press defense at the end of the game and Guard called a timeout, there's still no excuse to throw a punch in that situation. But I do think that, it all stems from him playing the press defense, and, then the timeout is called. Then Howard says something to Guard after the game, and Guard tries to stop him. Then Howard says, "Don't touch me." And then it kind of escalates from there, and then Howard takes the big escalation step of throwing a punch/slap at an assistant coach, and that's what really causes the whole thing to boil over, and everybody, it's just chaos at that point. But really, I think everything that happened stems from what Juwan Howard did, first with the press defense, then with the saying something to Guard, instead of just even simply just walking past him would have been better than saying, "I'll remember that shit." So I think that Howard is clearly the main instigator in here. I really don't think Guard has any sort of blame. I mean, maybe you could make the argument that that Guard shouldn't have touched Howard to try and stop him to explain himself. But in that situation, you want to explain yourself when they say something like, "I'll remember that shit." You want to explain yourself. You want to say, "Hey, I only did that because you were playing press defense, and I have the end of my bench in, and you have 2 starters still in. I'm just trying to get my guys better organized and reset the 10-second rule to get the ball over half court." So all of this to me is stemming from Juwan Howard, and if this happens again, I think he should be done. But at the moment, I think he should be suspended. So anyways, I just wanted to clarify my thoughts on that whole situation because I saw a lot of people saying things like, Guard is the one who started this by touching him or whatever. And clearly that's wrong. Clearly that's wrong because Howard is the one who said something to him in the post-game handshake line. He's the one who was playing press defense in the first place, and he's the one who got upset over a timeout after he was playing press defense against Wisconsin's, walk-ons at the end of the bench. So, I think all of this incident really stems from Howard. And of course, Howard is also the one who escalated the thing to physical violence when he threw a slap/punch at an assistant coach. So really, all of this is on Juwan Howard, in my opinion. And I don't just say that as a Badger fan. I say that as a fan of basketball. That's not acceptable. So, anyways, guys, so that's all I have to say in this video. I just really wanted to clarify my opinion on this because, like I said, I see a lot of, misinformed opinions, people who might have watched the thing once or don't have the context of the video that shows them up close with what they said to each other. People just are rushing so hard to have the quickest take on the situation, and I really think that the most level-headed one should be someone who actually watches it multiple times and has the full context of what happened. So, anyways, guys, so thanks for watching. I'd love to hear all of your opinions in the comment section below. Please keep it civil, of course. I know it's a very heated issue, a very divisive issue amongst fans as well. So please keep it civil. But in the meantime, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.